welcome to Bellauncinettocrafts. My name is Christina, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. If you're new here, I appreciate you coming. If you've been here for a while, I appreciate you coming back. And as always, no matter how long you've been here, I appreciate your time. So, if you know the channel, you know that seeing just my hands means that I'm going to be doing a how do I video. If you're new here, what that means is I am going to be showing you how I do something in crochet. Maybe it's helpful for you. Maybe you're like, oh, that's ridiculous and that's not going to work for me. Either way, I want to share how I do something. So if it is helpful for someone else, you hear it in a different way sometimes, see somebody do it a little bit differently than maybe you initially learned it, it may be easier for you. Today, if you saw the thumbnail, I am going to be talking about crochet gauge. And some people don't do gauge ever. Some people do gauge for certain things. But what does that mean, right? What does gauge mean? So if you're looking at a pattern and it says you need 14 by 20 for gauge, it could either be a 2 by 2 square or a 4 by 4 square. I'm going to hold this up just a little bit so you can see a little better. This is a 4 by 4 inch square inside here. Okay. And so that means that that's the number of stitches that I would need to have across, right, and up. So a whatever it would be. So this would make my row, right? However many it fits in the square, down and across. And depending on the type of stitch, it may not be the same number. Yes, this is a square, but if you're doing treble crochets and single crochets, then it's not going to be the same number each time, because some stitches take up more space than others. This particular gauge tool is one that I got from Evelyn at Pink Sheep Designs. It is 3D printed, so it's pretty flexible. It fits really well in a bag if I'm working on like a sweater or something. And that's when I personally think that gauge is the most important, is when making a wearable, because not everyone has the same tension. So I crochet very tightly. Some people may be a little more loose with their stitches, and for me, I typically have to go up a hook size in order to meet gauge. So for example, if it says, if the pattern calls for a 5mm hook, right, I know that I need to go up at least a half a hook size or a full hook size just to make it the same size that the pattern calls for. So if it's a medium tank top and it says use a 5mm hook, in order for me to make that hook, I'm going to need at least a 5.5 or a 6mm hook, because I am very tight with my stitches. Whereas someone who is more loose may need to go down half a hook size to meet this gauge. Okay, so I'm going to show you on a blanket and on a hot pad that I've made what I'm talking about. Because you're sitting there staring at this orange square like, come on, lady, what does this mean? What are these notches on the side? Well, the notches on this particular one will help you determine hook size. So Evelyn only does the smallest hook size that she makes is a 10mm hook sometimes, but I know that they have made other sizes, and they go all the way up. I think this one says 25, so I don't know if they go up any higher than that, but this particular one, you can put your hook on the side here and it will tell you what millimeter that hook is. Not all crochet gauges have this, but this one does. And I will link Evelyn down below since I'm using her materials. Well, they're my materials, but her husband and her put their hard work into making the materials. But I purchased them in the Halloween box. So if you see that video, you can go check that out. Here is a blanket that I made. Now this is Tunisian, and I have shown this in a previous video, but basically, I'm going to get it up on the corner here. When you are doing a gauge swatch, right, you would put this in here and say the pattern called for 16 by 16. You can't see the bottom of that, can you? Let me move that up for you. So if it called for 16 by 16, I would count my stitches across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh, I have too many, right? If it called for 16 by 16. And then I would count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I'm not off as much there as I would be over here. So something, right, in how I crocheted would be off. Now, like I said, depending on how tight or how loose you are when you're crocheting, that can make a difference. Okay, so adjusting your hook size can be a way to help you meet gauge. All right. Now I'm going to show you on a tiny little hot pad. Move this out of the way. And you can see the number of squares. So if I set it right here on the edge of my squares, right, in order to make a 4x4 square, and this is a corner to corner hot pad that I made. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 5 squares across. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares up to make gauge. If I was using this to write a pattern, or using this, if I had done this with a pattern and the pattern said that's how many I needed, then that would mean I was successful in meeting gauge. Now, like I said at the beginning, not everyone finds this important. Not everyone finds gauge is something that they need to do. They use it to fit their bodies, and that's completely fine. I personally don't use gauge often. I do use it when I am trying to make a wearable, and I do use it if I am trying to replicate a pattern as precisely as possible. So if it's something that I know that gauge is really important, and a lot of times if gauge is really important, they'll say it in the pattern. In order to get this particular look, you will need to meet gauge. If you are testing a pattern for someone, gauge is super important. Okay. So there are times when gauge is necessary. And then there are times that some people are like, no, I don't really do this. But I thought it would be nice to have a how do I on different crochet tools. So this is how do I use a crochet gauge tool. If you have any comments or questions or thoughts, please let me know. You can put them in the comments below or email me. And I so look forward to seeing you again. Be the change you wish to see in the world, everyone. Ciao bella!